You don't keep telling people what to do. They know and they respond to the competition because, okay, they are ready, they've been skilled, they've put in a lot of practice hours to be able to play. So work is also going to be like that. You got to put in a lot of practice hours to be there to play, because finally people want to be trusted, right? They work best when they are trusted. So you got to, again, in a very jestful way, uh, let the inmates run the asylum.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. This is your host Yash Rane at Leaders Hum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management platform and winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel that receives upwards of 400,000 visitors a year and publish several interviews with well-known names globally every single month. We have with us today Mr. Philip Mathew. He is the former Chief People Officer of HDFC Bank. It was under his leadership that the bank won the prestigious Business Today Award for the best employer in the country. In 2018, he quit to break fresh ground and has now ventured out to develop an IT-based HR solution. He likes to describe his product as an enabler and driver of productivity. Philip's experience as an HR practitioner spans over 30 years across a vast area of organizations. Mr. Mathew is an ocean of knowledge and is here today to share some of it with all our viewers. We are glad to have you here with us today, sir. Absolutely thrilled that you're over here at Leaders Hub, and welcome. I look forward to the next few minutes of our conversation.
Hi, Yash. It's a great pleasure to be here. Thanks for that liberal introduction. Yeah.
So, sir, let's go down a trip down memory lane, right? You were the Chief People Officer at HDFC for 16 years, and you have nearly 3 decades of experience being an HR professional. Could you speak to us a bit about your journey, maybe from the time you started to here 30 years later in 2021?
Yeah, just a bit of correction. I was with HDFC Bank for a good 16 years, from 2002 to 2018. I started with them as the AVP for HR operations, and then grew to become the Chief People Officer, which spanned for approximately 10 years in the bank. So yes, I've had a very exciting, wonderful career over the span of 30 years, working across industries. It was great fun. I had my share of ups and downs, but to give you a bit of a snapshot of the journey, I started in an industrial relations setting. My first job was with rallies, and that's where I developed the skills to forge win-win relationships. The industrial relations setting with unions, etc., external unions, was an adversarial type of context, and my negotiating skills and ability to deal with conflict is what got tested and built to start with. My process skills got honed at Marico, where I was a plant HR in charge, and that was in the driver's seat to drive a very key initiative for the company, that was TQM, Total Quality Management. So it was real fun, a great learning experience. Went on to ANZ Greenlays, managed a large-scale intervention in terms of rollout of new people management system, new performance management system. So that again was a great experience. Moved on to HDFC Bank later, started, as I mentioned, as in HR operations, and grew to become the Chief People Officer. So it's been a very wonderful career with a mixed bag of ups and downs, but great learning experience for me in terms of enriching my skills and being able to understand how HR impacts business. And just to reflect on the journey, one of the important aspects that I learned and managed to do was in terms of building HR and linking it up with business. Uh, I was fortunate to work with very enlightened leaders, and it enhanced HR, brought HR to the focus. And just to give you a little bit of detail, share a little bit of detail, we used to have a monthly key business objective report. HR used to prepare a monthly key business objective report, wherein key HR metrics in terms of how we are managing in things that are important for business, things that are important for HR to deliver. And these were objectives that were joint objectives, where HR is in the driver's seat leading it. And it made a big difference. And it made a huge impact on HR itself in terms of bringing up the HR game. And in popular parlance, what we call is that HR being not just a partner, but HR being a player, and HR being a player with the ability to score. That was key. So that was a very rich experience and very rewarding in way to work with business. It was tough, definitely. A collaboration doesn't come easily, but we got to making HR work that way, where you start thinking of key business results, link HR or work through matrices that you measure every month and you report. Again, a grueling task to do it, but at the end, it does pay a rich dividend in terms of ensuring that HR is very well aligned to work. So, just to give you a flavor of the journey, I've been a generalist and worked very deeply in each of these, many of the HR domains. So that's added a lot of insight. And currently, as you mentioned, I have moved on and I've become a HR product innovator. So I'm developing a product. So my experience is definitely helping me, and I'm distilling that experience to create another world-class product of mine. It's focused on productivity, and in the making, but probably will take a lot more time.
So that was an absolutely insightful discussion there, sir. What would you say were the key differences in the HR world, see at the time you started to right now in the current year? Like, how has HR transformed along your career path?
So I think, HR, if you look down the ages, I think there's never any doubt in people's mind that people make the difference. Okay. But yes, it's evolved over a period of time. And as we see, the intangibles in an organization, the people assets, more than any other assets, is leading to a great impact on market cap or value of an organization. The intangibles are bringing a lot of premium. You need technology, great products, all that is fine. But we do see, and most of the analysis do point out that intangibles create a 10x impact on valuations and market cap of corporates or organizations. So it's become very important that at HR is highly skilled. So that's where I would say the shift is growing. And you have companies like yours and many other HR products which focus or which are trying to use artificial intelligence, analytics to help HR and organization make the right people decisions. And that's the way to go. Nudging in the decisions in a timely manner at the right place for both individuals, teams, organizations. And that's where the real game is. So we can see a huge amount of specialization happening into HR, a demand for high quality talent coming into HR. And today the business world, as we see it, and as all researchers and analysts write about, it's all about hyper competition. There's no such thing as a dominant competitive edge. It's about transient advantage. So in such a changing world, getting the workforce skilled and the contribution of HR to business objectives is becoming a serious game. And that's where it's getting interesting also for HR professionals, as well as attracting talent. Why are people like you working or coming or working on HR products? It's attracting talent. It's getting exciting. You're an engineer by background, is what I understand. And when I spoke to you, when we were trying to get this interview organized, you talked about AI and all that. These are the fascinating things that are drawing talent into HR. While HR will always be, people centric. More than anything, the focus will be on people centricity. And my area of work is on productivity. What gets people to become, more productive, or what excites them, other than the things like technology and other aspects of great products that you need to win in the marketplace.
Absolutely, sir. So I'd love to know your take on the challenges that HR professionals will face in the post-pandemic workplace, and how would you go about trying to overcome them?
Sure. While during the pandemic, I had already quit my job earlier, so I didn't face the pandemic issues firsthand. But yes, I have a good pulse of what are the issues, challenges. And I think in the post-pandemic world, we have realized that people don't need, first things first, we don't need actually to travel to offices to get work done. But that's a big challenge. How do you organize for remote work? What are those data protection or information security issues that need to get enabled or structured to help people to do work from remote or get work done for clients? So that I think is a challenge. And with evolving technology, like how we do meetings, it was always there before. Telecommuting, video conferences existed even before. But I think the art of doing that is going to increase, and remote working is there to stay. And the good part, or the on a lighter side, is that organizations always struggle to get leaders to empathize, understand employees better. The pandemic has made people, leaders, like to take on, be the chief empathy officer now. Stay at home, spend time with your families, chill out. You're not feeling well, take rest. So that's a good thing, and I think that's there to stay. We always found it a little difficult to get leaders to manage the access of concern for people and concern for task. General tendency is to go overboard or on the task side and forget the people side. So I think this empathy is there to stay. And work also, it has forced us to look at, are we doing work that's important enough? Definitely the quality and the nature of work is going to get analyzed better now. And we do see the effect of cutting down or trimming down on jobs, replacements, not getting filled up, and organizations trying to do without it. But the other side of the story is that there's a lot of wastage also in organizations. We do see a lot of waste of effort and non-value activities that tend to creep in over time. And this process of having to assess work, what's important, what's not important, I think that's going to increase in terms of regularity. And then our BCP, business continuity plans, disaster disaster recovery mechanisms, I think those drills will now get taken and more seriously. and those would have got tested quite a lot in the pandemic phase. And we got to realize this aspect of event risk. Suddenly things can happen which can derail us. Are we prepared enough? That scope of assessment of risk and preparedness is going to get heightened, which is a good thing. I think that keeps us nimble, quick to respond, gets us more agile in terms of dealing with uncertainty, especially. So there's a lot that's going to change on that front. But yes, the virtual offices, getting work distributed, the diversity in work, we can have a new composition of workforce is definitely going to emerge. And I think those are going to be some new challenges that HR will be required to handle very adeptly.
Definitely. I do believe that even though the challenges are difficult, we are looking at an exciting future ahead of us, not just for the HR world, but for the entire professional workplace.
Sure.
That brings me to my next question. Like you said, you are venturing out to build a new platform that's based on productivity. In that light, could you share some tips on how leaders can look to be more productive as individuals as well as within their own teams?
Sure. The oft, asked question of what people always try to find is that, yes, what is that leaders do that is the spark that ignites company performance? Leaders can create a bonfire of success or a landscape of ashes. But is it something that's got to do with just fuzzy feeling good factor, uh, or just about motivation? What's the real formula to this is a very important question, and I think I have some answers to that. When we talk of engagement, popularly also we sum up engagement in very famous coinage of being a organization being wired up, plugged in, and switched on. That's the way we would like to articulate an electrified or engaged workforce. But what's the DNA? What's the formula for this? So that's the key question. And while the softer aspects are very important, and they lead it to creating a great feeling of satisfaction in workforce, but I think there's definitely a method that is required or involved to get this to happen. To get get leaders to be effective. And this mantra, I believe, one part of it is, or a central part of it, is to focus on the work in itself. I think putting work at the centerpiece is where the critical part of leadership, success is going to be how people think, feel, and relate to work. And broadly, to put the product I'm trying to develop is also on those lines, that how do you make work central to excitement and fun in an organization? While we may do a lot of good things to make people feel good, but in essence, at the core, the work must be is something that's interesting, challenging, uh, and the right fit for people and teams to work on. So as far as leaders are concerned, in our popular framework, again, we always recommend or state that leaders should be concerned about workforce success. There's a very popular framework that ties up workforce success with business process success. So if the workforce is good quality, successful, business process will be successful. If business processes are successful, customers will be happy, customers will have success. And if your customers are successful, you will have financial success. So the leaders of today, along with HR, as far as people management is concerned, need to focus on matrices that actually drive workforce success. I believe, or I like to rely on a very simplistic formula, which I believe is the dynamics, or can be a very important dynamic to driving in workforce success and creating the right sort of work environment and excitement for people. Leaders need to look like, as far as products are concerned, we look at what do our customers want. Leaders need to look at what employees want. And I think the core principles, core meaning CORE, uh, they reflect what people want. People want certainty. The C stands for certainty. People want opportunities, availability for choice. People want to feel respected, reputation. Their reputation matters. Equity. And I'll explain all four based on my own experiences at the workplace. We are in an uncertain world. So is employees a demand for certainty out of place? No. You know, people don't want just answers which satisfy them. Like I give you an example, promotions. It's always a promotion season, or promotions always cause a lot of dissatisfaction in an organization when the list comes out, right? Most have experienced it. But the problem is when people don't know why they didn't get promoted, right? And the most important thing that people want to know is when and how will they get promoted. So we used to have a fairly simple, straightforward mechanism of job evaluation, which ensured that people know whether they can get promoted in a particular job. Then the criteria to get promoted, what rating or what performance review or talent review mechanism would clear you through that. So that takes off a lot of, I won't say that it was 100% perfect and we could ensure certainty, but it took out a major part of the problem and created a lot more positivity in employees and people when they are sure or certain that yes, decisions you take will pan out in a certain way, and they're not kept guessing. Similarly, people want choices, opportunities. When you direct and tell them in a job rotation, move to a particular role, or transfer to a particular place, it creates a lot of issues. Or take in a merger situation where people have to change jobs. You can't have you can't have two marketing officers in the same position where you got just one role. But instead of mandating moves, if you can give choices for people to move, people accept change, because as I mentioned, we are in a hyper competitive age. Change is always going to be there. So giving people the choice is going to be key, and that's how leaders will establish their credibility, that if they can give people decisions that are going to be there with a certain degree of certainty, consistency, if they're going to allow people to make choices rather than dictate decisions to them. And third is people want to feel important. Yeah, nobody is comparing in wanting to be the CEO or the boss or the group head or ex-head. He wants to be compared with his group or his peer group. And uh, every job in the organization is important. There's no job that's not important. So the key is, again, to ensure that there's a respect and people can feel important in an organization. They're part of a team. They're part of important work. That's where the point that I mentioned on work being the exciting factor, that what I'm doing is important. How does it relate to the customer? How does it create value? That's very important. Today people are looking in for purposeful work. Yeah, it's just not the work. Does that work create an impact on society? They're looking beyond. So I think is something again in leaders will need to imbibe and ensure. And the last or the fourth, which I mentioned as equity being the most important, is equity in what I mean is fairness. Yeah. People compete when they know they have a chance. So processes need to be transparent, open, whether it's a recruitment process, whether it's a promotion process, whether it's a compensation policy or compensation decisions that are made. How open? How much do we share? How do people know how decisions that matter to them are made? Leaders or business units that are rating their staff, how is the ratings got done? We used to use performance scorecards as methods, so that you don't have to commit to a bell curve or a certain percentage age of in each rating category. Can you use a performance scorecard to spell out benchmarks, if met, would qualify for a certain rating? Again, difficult to implement. I won't say we were 100% perfect in it, but yes, those are mechanisms that work much better. So that type of workplace is something that leaders should strive to create, and that's what I mentioned at the start. It will create a bonfire of success, and otherwise we will be dealing with difficult times.
Absolutely. So, like you said, using the core principles can be a driver of productivity, and this is something every organization can use for their benefit going forward.
Sure, 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 sure.
So, sir, what advice would you give for someone who is looking to establish a career in human resources who may someday aspire to be even half as successful as you are?
People will be doubly successful, and I think choosing a career in HR is a good decision. For me, I enjoyed my career. As I said, I had my ups and downs, but what worked for me was grueling hard work. I think there's no easy route out or easy way out of work. In order to learn, in order to do, you need to have the work practice or work ethics to really work hard, and that helped me a lot in terms of my growth and in terms of my ability to take on more. So I think that's very key. Another very important aspect I would advise for all HR people is process orientation. It's process that begets results, and it's something that I've noticed also that doesn't happen that easily. And sometimes this process orientation can get mistaken for micromanagement. Micromanagement is again very essential, but it's a bit of a people chemistry issue, that how do you micromanage or process manage without appearing to be overbearing? Okay, so it's very important when we are working as teams, whether it's cross-border, virtual, that information flows at the right time. People keep each other updated well on time. So that's a critical part of working in together. So yeah, those the been some of the what to say highlights, and I would say that HR is a very specialized area too. You need to be a good generalist. At the same time, you need to upskill and specialize. HR work is about assessing and developing. There's no copying. There's nothing that works in one place that can just be planted and put in. You got to assess what's the gap, how should it be crafted, and accordingly design and implement your or HR practices, strategies, whatever you may call. And that's where I'll again come back to my work life experience, where I mentioned about these key business objective reports. Business plans were made for each HR. Business plans were made for each business unit. There's no mega plan. Yes, there is definitely a broad theme of HR work that you want to do, but HR business objectives have got to be designed for each business unit, keeping in mind what type of business phase, what type of talent requirements, what type of market conditions they are facing. All policy aspects, all HR aspects, uh, from talent to comp to engagement, need to be defined, designed, keeping that in mind. So business plans, it's about a very, very detailed working. HR people need to understand business very well, and there's no one size fits type of approach. So all those who are taking up a HR career, working in HR, I think it's exciting times and great to learn, and most importantly, upskill. HR is a highly specialized line, that I would say.
Absolutely. So, sir, that brings me to my final question. You have had a long, successful career. What is it after 30 years later that still continues to drive you to strive towards greater success?
Okay, now it's want the desire to create something new. Okay, the desire to innovate is what I'm would say driven by. So I like I would say like that, and my view of the future of work or the workplace is, even when I used to be working, one of the off quoted things that I would tell my team and people is that the organization needs to be like a sports field. For example, like a football field. When you're playing football, everybody's got a position. Nobody is playing in keeping in mind who's the captain or what the captain is saying. You're all playing with just one aim, that is to win. Whether it's the goalkeeper, whether it's the midfielder, whether it's the back, or it's the center forward, everybody's playing to win. They know that they're playing an opponent. I think that sums up the work environment, and that's going to be there of the future. It's going to be like a playing field. Hierarchies are disintegrating. Getting into networked and other forms of working, but they're still not there. I think work, if as again famously said, work must be like play to be enjoyable, then we in this competitive age have to have organizations that are organized like a football field. You don't keep telling people what to do. They know and they respond to the competition, because okay, they are ready, they've been skilled, they've put in a lot of practice hours to be able to play. So work is also going to be like that. You got to put in a lot of practice hours to be there to play, because finally people want to be trusted, right? They work best when they are trusted. So you got to, again, in a very jestful way, let the inmates run the asylum. So it's good to take power away from managers, put them in the hands of people who you can trust. But that calls for a lot of deep work again in by HR and business to get to that. And I think those are the organizations that are going to continually win, and those are the organizations where people work in are also going to continue enjoy and produce high quality results.
Absolutely. So, well, that was a very delightful and equally
My
insightful
pleasure.
conversation.
My pleasure.
Thank you
It's a
so much
great.
for your time and for
Yeah,
sharing all this
thank.
knowledge with us. I absolutely
Like,
loved it, and I'm sure all our viewers and listeners must have
sure.
gotten a lot to learn.
I hope to. I hope to.